he wanted the Israelites to kill all men who sacrificed their children. God told Moses that he would turn his face against any man who failed to kill another man he knew had sacrificed his children. 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 31 deals with children who were sacrificed to gods other than Molech. And the Abites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burnt their children in fire to Adremelech and Anamelech, the gods of Sepharvaim. Verses 16 and 17 of 2 Kings chapter 17 reveal that some of the Israelites sacrificed their children to Baal. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. Jeremiah chapter 19 verses 3 through 5 reveals that the judgment of God will fall upon any nation which allows child sacrifice. And say, Hear ye the word of the Lord, O kings of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. Behold, I will bring evil upon this place, the which whosoever heareth, his ears shall tingle. Because they have forsaken me, and have estranged this place, and have burned incense in it unto other gods, whom neither they nor their fathers have known, nor the kings of Judah, and have filled this place with the blood of innocents. They have built also the high places of Baal, to burn their sons with fire for burnt offerings unto Baal, which I commanded not, nor spake it, neither came it into my mind. Since we know that all false gods are in reality demons, and all demons are following Satan, the scriptural evidence that satanic ritual abuse has occurred is uncontestable. The demonic practices of the ancient Canaanites did not cease when the children of Israel invaded the Promised Land. They have been passed down through the centuries within the mystery religions. The teaching of the mystery religions has been preserved in the literature and practice of several secret societies. The very fact that several states have enacted laws concerning ritual abuse demonstrates that the problem is still with us. This is really not surprising because the nature of man has not changed. The legal definitions are broad for several obvious reasons. The element of religion has not been placed in the law to prevent perpetrators from using freedom of religion as a defense. If laws applied only to satanic ritual abuse, some who worship Lucifer would deny that Lucifer and Satan are the same being. That may sound absurd, but I have seen documents from organizations which lift up Lucifer, yet deny the existence of Satan. Additionally, all ritual abuse does not contain satanic elements. The broad definition within the Illinois law serves to convict without having to prove Satanism per se. While most ritual abuse cases never come to trial, there have been several criminal prosecutions that resulted in convictions. In most cases, the ritual aspect was not introduced in court, but was clearly indicated by the accounts of the victims. Numerous civil cases incorporating claims of ritual abuse have been successfully litigated. In August 1984, there were 2 cases which resulted in convictions. In Niles, Michigan, Richard Barkman, the husband of a daycare operator, was convicted. In Miami, Frank and Ileana Fuster went to prison because of abuses at their Country Walk Daycare Center. The case has been impressively documented in the book Unspeakable Acts and in the ABC docudrama of the same title. In September 1984, in Malden, Massachusetts, the Fells Acre daycare case culminated in guilty verdicts against Violet Amirault and her daughter Cheryl Amirault Lefebvre. They were given sentences of from 8 to 20 years. In December 1987, in Roseburg, Oregon, 3 Gallup Christian daycare facilities were the scene of crimes that resulted in the conviction of a minister, his wife, and his son. Mary Lou Gallup's conviction was reversed because of a discovery violation, but Ed Gallup Sr. and Ed Chips Gallup Jr. both served their sentences. In the same month, in Lehigh, Utah, Alan Hadfield was convicted of abusing his own children in a case in which many adults in the community were identified as perpetrators of satanic ritual abuse. The case was documented in the PBS program Promise Not to Tell. In September 1988, in Santa Rosa, California, Darrell Ball and Charlotte Thrakill plea bargained on molestation charges and were sentenced to substantial prison terms. The prosecutor's opening statement referred to the ritual aspect of the crimes, and the child victims described satanic ceremonies that included murders. In May 1989, in Stuart, Florida, James Toward pled guilty to charges arising from the sexual abuse of over 100 children at the Montessori school where he was principal. 6 children testified. Toward received a 27-year sentence. His secretary received 10 years. In April 1990, in Thurston County, Washington, Paul Ingram, a former Thurston County Sheriff's deputy, confessed shortly after being confronted. Ingram had been involved in ritual abuse for many years. 2 other law enforcement officers allegedly were involved, but charges eventually were dismissed because the victims were too traumatized to appear in court. Ingram was sentenced. In December 1990, in Akron, Ohio, Philip and Michael Schmidt pled guilty to molesting children who were attending the daycare operated by their grandmother, Hazel Riggs, who was sentenced on a lesser charge. The Denver Post story on the case included ritual allegations by a child victim. Prosecution was handled by the Attorney General's office. In March 1992, in Mansfield, Ohio, 2 teenage babysitters at the First Presbyterian Church were sent to prison for abusing children during church functions. Lawrence Rode, age 19, was sentenced to 14 years, and Scott Butner received from 5 to 10 years. Children all told of being taken from the church and witnessing murder, cannibalism, and mutilation of corpses. Parents of about 60 children have urged that charges be filed against other church members who allegedly were involved, but the grand jury has declined to indict anyone else. In April 1992, in Edmonton, North Carolina, Robert Kelly, owner of the Little Rascals Daycare Center, was found guilty on 99 out of 100 counts of sexual abuse and sentenced to 12 consecutive life terms. 12 children testified in court, and one young victim described how the perpetrators would pray, "Oh, devil, destroy these children." As of April 1993, one other defendant had been convicted, and 5 others remained to be tried. The most recent conviction was in 1992 in Austin, Texas. Francis and Daniel Keller were convicted. One victim disclosed how he was told that his arm bone had been taken out and replaced with Satan's. He watched them as they poured jars of blood on his arm. Ritual abuse, and more specifically, satanic ritual abuse in the name of false gods, does occur today